Well, good day, folks, and welcome back to The Secret Solved. This is a program where we look at The Secret, a book by Byron Price. We assess the information provided in the back of the book and go through the stories in order to see if we can learn anything about the puzzles. So, in today's episode, we are talking about the small businessman. The small businessman is a three-page article. It starts on 211 and includes pictures on 212 and 213. So, this is otherwise known as the German Ent, Klein, Nuck, Muckerschnick. Well, the first three words means small, but I never could find the Muckenstick, so I think that might just be Munchkin. So, let's get this episode going. So, I'm going to start out by tying the last article about rich doctors to this article. And I want to start by talking about Rich Little, because we're talking about the little people. So, Rich Carruthers Little is a Canadian American impressionist and voice actor, sometimes known as a man of a thousand voices. Little was born in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, in the middle of three sons. His father, Lawrence Peniston Little, was a surgeon who served as lieutenant commander in the Royal Canadian Naval Volunteer Reserve during World War II, and then worked for the Department of Veterans until his death in 1959. His mother, Elizabeth Maud Wilson, was a housewife. He is a third-generation Canadian, and he's descended from English stock on his father's side and Irish on his mother's. On his mother's side, he is descended from John Wilson, the Speaker of the Fifth Parliament. His paternal grandfather, William Carruthers Little, was a member of Parliament in the House of Commons. Okay, so that's a little bit about Little. His father being a doctor is the reason I kind of pointed this out. He broke into show business in 1963 as Guy Lombardo's in Tierra Verde, Florida. He appeared with many people. He was on the Judy Garland show. He had his own show in Canada. He starred as the Rich Little Show in 1966. And he was on the Dean Martin. Little provided the voice for the Pink Panther in two cartoons, Sync Pink and Pink Eyes. One of Little's best known and best impersonations was of Richard Nixon. In the 1970s, he was on the Julie Andrews Hour and did a number of things in the 1970s and early 80s. So, he was involved in several charities. He married a couple of times. But anyway, he's my transitional figure. So, the Red Little people, I couldn't really find anything on the Red Little people or the Inklings. Uh, I did find, however, these Little People toys, and they were made by the Fisher Price Company, and founded in 1930 during the Great Depression by Herman Fisher, Irving Price, and Margaret Evans Price, and Helen Scheel. And this Fisher worked previously in manufacturing, selling advertising games for a Churchville, New York company, and then a Binghamton, New York company. The mayor of Aurora, New York, supported the Fishers by raising $100,000 in capital. In 1931, three of the four founders took 16 of their wooden toys to the American International Toy Fair in New York, and they quickly became a success. The Dr. Doodle in 1931 was very good success, as well as the toy Buzzy Bee. During the 1960s, the family play, later known as Little People, and Little People was a toy brand for children aged 6 to 36, was introduced soon and overtook the popularity of the earlier toys. Herman Fisher retired at 71, and the Quaker Oats Company bought Fisher in 1969. The Quaker Oats Company, also known as Quaker, which is mentioned a lot in the book, is a Chicago company. So Quaker has its roots not only in not only okay, it also has history. Okay, so not only is Quaker associated with Chicago, Illinois, it's also associated with Akron, Ohio. And because the German Mills American Oatmeal Company was first started by Ferdinand Schumacher and Robert Stewart. It then went through several transitions, and eventually, in 1879, John Stewart and his son Robert joined with George Douglas to join Imperial Mill, which set up operations in Chicago. And so in 1889, the American Seal Company introduced the half-ounce trial size, and as a promotion, they distributed one to every home in Portland, Oregon, via Boys on Bicycle. Later, this promotion was extended to other cities. A second promotion involved placing dinner plates within the then regular, not round boxes of oats. And one time it mentioned this whole idea of putting something in another box. And it's obviously associated with Wrigley, who started out by putting something with his baking soda, and then he found out that the gum that he was putting in the baking soda box was uh, more popular than the actual baking soda. But this is another example of that, in where they put dinner plates within the regular, not round boxes of oats. The Quaker Oats was founded in 1901 in New Jersey with headquarters in Chicago by the merger of the Flour Oatmeal Company and a cereal mill in Cedar Rapids. So that's kind of the history of the Quaker Oat Company. Henry Parsons Cromwell was instrumental in this company. He really became interested in the Moody Bible, and he gave a lot of his money to causes. Irving Price was born in Worcester, Massachusetts. He had a successful career as an executive at Woolworth, retired at an early age, and was elected mayor of East Astoria, New York. He co-founded the Fisher Price Company as well with his wife, Margaret Evans Price. Margaret was a member of the wealthy Evans family of New York, who for a time had effective monopoly on the building materials industry in that city. And I think that's important. I think that's an important aspect because they show the building materials and they talk about it in New York. I've already talked about, I think, Herman Fisher. Helen Shield. She was born in Piqua, Ohio, co-founder of Fisher Price. Um, she was asked by financier Irving Price to join him as a partner in the new toy company. And that's how she got going. The Fisher Price Company was formally established in East Aurora, is a village in Erie County. Part of the Buffalo Niagara Falls metropolitan statistical area. Legerdemain, Legerdemain, is actually a real word. It has to do with older literature and simply means skillful without any connotation of sleight of hand. It also literally translates into light of hand. Light of hand. So I don't know where that comes into play. Um, the Cherokee Cave Museum of Natural History. In 1945, Lee Hess purchased. Oh, I like it when we find a Lee. Purchased the DeMille Mansion and the surrounding property, including a building at the corner of Broadway and Cherokee Street, which stood over the original entrance to the Minnehaha Cave. Hess's intention was to turn the brewery cave into a tourist attraction, but he wanted to highlight the natural rock formations in the unaltered part of the cave rather than the industrialized limp loggering rooms. In order to access these areas, much of the clay blocking the passages needed to be removed. When workers began to remove the clay, they discovered a large deposit of animal bones. Okay, this Hess, eager to make a great discovery, sent a letter of the sample of the bones to the American Museum of Natural History. Where they had discovered was the skull of a prehistoric pig called Peccary, whatever. Intrigued by the discovery of a large deposit of fossils in an urban area, the museum's creator of fossil mammals, George Gaylord Simpson, and another George Whitaker, traveled to St. Louis and spent several weeks retrieving, cleaning, and cataloging these for the Museum of Natural History. Okay, so that's a little fun fact. It's in Cherokee Park, folks. They're just fucking with you. They're fucking with you. Cherokee Park. George Gaylord Simpson uh, was yeah, I don't know what this guy had. He didn't have anything to do with the story. He went to University of Colorado and Yale. I just wanted to look him up because for by for other reasons. But anyway, so that's that guy. Where were we at? So manufactured housing. We're back to that. Um, so in the 1960s, so the prefab home is what we're talking about, and the reason I mentioned that the Mill Mansion was because the small businessman used to set up a ticket booth at the mouth of the cave. So they sold tickets to the Cherokee Cave. That's why I mentioned that. In the sweatshops of small business, the basic fabric of our economy was woven into our money, woven uh, money laundered. Okay. Well, the prefab home actually started with the Sears Company. The Sears Roebuck and Company uh, sold more than 500,000 homes before anybody else even thought about selling a house. Uh, so in 1910, between 1910 and 1940, Sears Roebuck and Company sold over a half a million prefabricated homes. And then you have Cliff Baird, also another manufacturer of this. I think the important part here is that Sears, and then Sears is a Chicago company. So next up is the Munchkins. So the Munchkins were basically these famous small people that were in the Wizard of Oz. Um, so let's see. There's a story about the Munchkins, and it has to do with the casting of the Munchkins. But I'll be damned if I can find it right now. So there's an interesting story about the casting of the Munchkins. Let me see if I can find it. Casting of the Munchkins. I read this one time, but I can't remember what it was. Hmm. Well, anyway, the Munchkins were more or less a group of people that were already appearing in another production, if you will. And where's this at? Uh, the, the film. Okay, so the following is okay. This is just a list. Okay, here it is. Okay, in 1930, most of the dwarfs hired were acquired for MGM by Leo Singer, the proprietor of Singer's Midgets. Okay, and so Leo Singer is actually the guy, and Leopold von Singer, another Leo, was an Austrian-born American manager of a group called Singer's Midgets, and they were a popular vaudeville act. His wife, Wahlberg, recruited midgets, today referred to as little people, for their troupe, and they had this show in Venice. So what's interesting is during the 30s, some of Singer's midgets began appearing in films such as Tarzan, The Ape Man. They gave him a gun, Blockheads, and The Terror of Tiny Town. And then he provided 124 actors that played uh, in the Wizard of Oz. So Billy Curtis once noticed that Singer had a reputation of cheating the midgets, uh, during which he reportedly took their pay during the filming of The Wizard of Oz. So Billy Curtis is uh, Luigi Curto, an American film and television actor with dwarfism. He had a 50-year career in the entertainment industry. The bulk of his work was in Western and science fiction genres, portraying a little person. One of his early roles was uncredited as a Munchkin City father in The Wizard of Oz. He was in Superman and The Whole Man, and in Adventures of Superman. Curtis's work in westerns included High Plains Drifter with Clint Eastwood. He was featured as Mordecai, a friendly dwarf sympathetic to Eastwood's character. He appeared in the musical western The Terror of Tiny Town, directed by Sam Newfield. Uh, the film, as far as it known, the world's only western with an all-midget cast. So that was actually an all-midget cast. That was filmed out in the Placerita Canyon. The inspiration came when Buell overheard an employee jokingly say, "If this economic dive keeps going, we'll be using midgets as actors." And as it turns out, they did. So the plot of this film is that Buck Larson, who walks on his, tells the story of a Sirius as a hero, he will become the biggest star. The film's villain, Bat Haynes, walks on and says he will become the biggest star in Hollywood, and the two argue. So it's a film about Hollywood. Looks like Billy Curtis, got it on with Yvonne Moray. Okay, well, we could go in and look at all of the individual Munchkins, if you will, and see if there's anything interesting about them, but I'm not going to do that because this would be an entire show. Randy Stewart Newman wrote the song Short People Got No Living, Short People in 1977, and he also wrote I Love L.A. He was born in L.A. To Hollywood film composers. He began his songwriting career at 17. Newman's worked as a film composer. So he was born in a Jewish family. His father's 30th birthday in Los Angeles. He is the son of Adele Dixie. I love it when we find a Dixie, a secretary, and Irving George Newman. I like it when we find an Irving. Oh, by the way, his father was an internist, a doctor. So it's amazing how they bring these people who's have a doctor relationship, uh, and it's just kind of interesting how they always bring in these Jewish people whose parents are doctors. Oh, hold on. That's they all are. Okay, so the Uniform Service University of Health Sciences is located at Walter Reed National Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland. We had a mention to Reed College out in California, and I wonder if they're trying to circle us back to Walter Reed Medical Center for a potential DC solve. I don't know why I looked this one up, but I did. It's in the back of the book. Thomas Hill Boggs was declared dead December 29th of 1972. Uh, he was the House Majority Leader and a member of the Warren Commission. He was born in Long Beach, Mississippi, not Long Beach, California. He became a leader in the movement to break the power of the political machine of U.S. Senator Huey Pierce Long, Jr., who was assassinated in 1935. Long had previously broken the power of New Orleans politicians in 1929. He ran for governor. This guy. The Kennedy Johnson ticket won Louisiana pretty easily. This guy didn't. So Boggs often campaigned for others, including Nick Begich of Alaska. So in October of 1972, Boggs was aboard a twin-engine Cessna 310 and facing a tight race. Don Young, when it appeared during Don Young, when it disappeared during a flight between Anchorage to Juneau. Also on board were Begich's aide, Russell Brown, and the pilot, Don Johns. And the four were heading to a campaign fundraiser for Begich. The search for the missing aircraft and foreman included Coast Guard, Navy, Armed Forces. The Cessna was required to carry an emergency locator transmitter per Alaska state federal law. Well, so I guess they never. So in 1973, Boggs' wife, Lindy, the Lindy Hop, her real name's Marie Corinne Morrison Claiborne Boggs, was elected to Congress in his stead. I don't understand how and why anybody that died in a plane wreck would, think that their wife or significant other, if it's a woman that dies, would be qualified to be be in office. Okay. What else do we have? All right, folks. I think that's going to do it for the small businessman. I apologize for this small presentation. I had little to say about the information that I could find in this tiny article. I wish I had more, but there just isn't any. And so you might look at the pictures and where they're standing. One's standing on these steps. I actually just think that the small businessman is an anti-hero to the large businessman, which is Rockefeller. And the contrast here is that you contrast Rockefeller to the big businessman as opposed to the small businessman. Because in this, you have the steps, you have the columns for the search. And so if you look at the columns for the search and you look at the steps, and you realize one of the companies mentioned in here was a company that started in Cleveland. You get the idea that, this is just rounding it up to the big businessman. Okay, well, that's about all I have on this particular presentation. I realize it's kind of lame, but I'm pretty sure I'm on it with the Munchkins and the Limps and the Lollipop Pop Guild, because it says the mom and pop stores. So where else would you have a mom and pop store but in Munchkin land, because of the fact that we represent the Lollipop Guild, the Lollipop Kids, the Lollipop Guild. We represent The lollipop guilt. All right, I think I've had enough of that. I told you my singing voice sucked, but just remember it. So the singer midgets. It might just be my singing. All right, folks. I'm on to bigger and better things. I have one more presentation left in the secret solve. It's now 9:45 p.m. and I don't think I'm going to be able to bang it out today. So I'm going to have to probably do this tomorrow. Just a reminder that Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was only 5'4" tall. So he was not a giant of industry either. Amadeus. Rock me, Amadeus. Rock me, Amadeus. All right, folks. Thanks so much for joining in.